Hi, my name is Luyren, and here's a quick Stencyl tip. Learn how to use the drawing blocks. The drawing blocks are a quick way to display text, values, and draw shapes on screen, serving as a very useful tool to show information such as score, health, and other game elements, as well as debugging. Understand how they work to make effective use of them. There is a Stencylpedia article on drawing text and HUD elements you can use as reference. Make sure you check that as well. That's it for introductions. Let's get started. The drawing blocks can be found under Drawing in the block palette. These blocks can only be used in the When Drawing event. Using the drawing blocks is as simple as placing one of the blocks inside the drawing event. Don't confuse the drawing blocks with the image blocks. Although both of them are the same color, they are two different processes. In oversimplified terms, drawings are handled by the CPU. You treat performance for ease of use, especially when you change large drawings every frame. Images are handled by the GPU. You have more freedom and power with images, but they have a different learning curve. I'll leave in the description below a less simplified explanation of the difference between them. Special thanks to Justin from the Stencyl dev team for providing this information. For now, I'll only cover drawing blocks. Images will be explained in a later video. As the name implies, the game is drawing all the information of the event every visual frame. In order to control if the drawing happens or not, use a boolean or other condition. By changing the values in your condition, you can change when the drawing happens. In this example, I reversed the value of a boolean with a key press, and that controls when the drawing happens. Now, let's go over the available blocks. The properties that define the appearance of your drawing can be found in the Styles tab. They define the color used for field drawings, including field shapes and pixels, the color and stroke thickness used for stroke drawings, including lines and the outline of shapes, the font for text drawings, with the option to change the font spacing as well, and the opacity of the drawing. To apply these styles, they must be used before any of the actual drawing blocks. If you want multiple drawings with different styles, simply use the blocks again to set the desired style before your other set of drawing blocks. If none of the style blocks are used, Stencyl will use its own default font, fill and stroke color will be black, stroke thickness will be set to 0 and opacity will be set to 100%. A stroke thickness value of 0 means lines and the outline of field shapes won't show up. A few notes on the style blocks. All of them can be set through attributes. The color blocks can also use RGB numbers to set their values. through the red, green, blue S-color block. The get width and get height using current font blocks will refer to the font set with the set current font block. Changing a font's spacing is persistent, so in case you need different text with different spacings, remember to set it before each one. With all that in mind, always set the style blocks first. A text drawing without a font set may grab a font from another drawing on the scene and have undesired results, so make a habit of always setting the necessary styles before the drawing. The blocks under the Transform tab determine the position of your drawing. Under Space Conversion, you have the Switch to Screen Space and Switch to Actor Space blocks. What they do is set the origin point, which is the position x0, y0 of your drawing. On Screen Space, the origin is set to the top left corner of the screen. If the camera moves, the drawing moves with it. On Actor Space, the origin is set to the selected actor's top left corner. If the actor moves, the drawing moves with it. What if you want to draw something on the actual scene, a drawing that stays there regardless of the camera's position? It's pretty simple. You already know that on Screen Space, the drawing moves with the camera. What happens if you subtract the camera's position from it? In short, to achieve scene space, set it to screen space and subtract the camera's X and Y positions from your drawing's position. The Move Pen block under Transforms allows you to move the drawing's origin point within the spacing you set. You can set to a specific point with Move To, or change the origin point by a specific amount with Move By. Moving it by x20, y20, for example, moves the origin point by 20 pixels right and 20 pixels down. Move by is more useful when performing multiple movements in sequence. Note that at the beginning of the When Drawing event, the pen is set to x0, y0 by default. The Move Pen block is useful when drawing the actor's image, which will be shown later. The Drawing Layer blocks change in which layer the drawing happens. Two important notes. The Scene layer draws above everything. When drawing in the same layer as an actor, the drawing happens above that actor. If you don't use any transform block, actor drawings will be on actor space on the actor's layer, and scene drawings will draw on screen space on scene layer. All of these blocks affect all the drawings of your actor or scene, So if you have different behaviors, each drawing their own thing, the transform settings can affect all of them. Because of that, and similar to the style blocks, always use the transform blocks before your actual drawing. Now, let's go over what you can draw on screen. You've seen some of the drawing possibilities throughout this video, so let's quickly go over them. To showcase all the blocks, I made a behavior that incrementally adds drawings as you press the Enter key, combining everything explained so far. You can draw text. This block can also accept anything, so you can put text attributes, numbers, lists, and even actors in it. If you encounter errors while trying to use other blocks, use the asText block to convert your value to text. The font used is defined in the Set Current Font block. And as you can see in the showcase behavior, you can use number attributes or blocks that return numbers for the position of your drawing. You can draw lines. The thickness of the line is defined by the stroke thickness and its color by the stroke color. You can fill individual pixels. Their color is defined by the fill color. If you combine this with loop blocks and some equations, you can get some elaborate drawings. The Draw Image for Actor block does exactly that. Draw the actor's image. Note that you don't have parameters for the position of this drawing. To control where you want to draw, use the Move Pen block beforehand. The rectangle and circle drawing blocks can be just the outline if you select Draw, or a filled shape with an outline if you select Fill. Fill uses the fill color, while the outline is controlled by the stroke thickness and stroke color. For a filled shape without an outline, either set both colors to the same value or set stroke thickness to 0. The rectangle drawings will start at a specified position and move down and right with its height and width. If you use negative numbers for the width and the height, the rectangle will be drawn to the left and upwards from the specified position. Round rectangles have round edges, the curvature of which is defined in the arc parameter. For circle drawings, the specified position is the center of the circle. Polygon drawing works the same way. Outline is just the outline, and filled fills the inside of the outline with a color. To create a polygon, use the Add Point to Polygon block to add each point. A line will be drawn between one point to the next in the block stack, and the last point will then connect to the first. When performing multiple drawings, the last drawing made, at the bottom of a block stack, will be drawn above everything that comes before. It's like drawing above a previous drawing. Because of that, always keep in mind the order of your drawings. We've covered the blocks and how they work, so let's talk about use cases. The first and most obvious one is for user interface or UI elements, like current score and player health. They can also be called HUD elements, short for heads-up display. Displaying them can be achieved by using the Draw Text block with the relevant attribute. Problems may arise if you draw floats, which are numbers with decimal points. Because of the way computers work, you might get a long string of decimal points you don't really want to display. There are ways around this. You can round your number. That will eliminate all decimal points. You can include only a few decimal points. By multiplying, rounding, and then dividing your number, you can reduce the number of decimal points. In this example, by multiplying, rounding, and then dividing by 100, you get 2 decimal points. If you only wanted 1 decimal point, multiply divide by 10. If you want 3 decimal points, multiply and divide by 1000, and so on and so forth. Another challenge when drawing values is drawing zeros to the left of your number, up to a specified amount. In score-based games, this is a common display method. Here is the code for this setup, requiring one text attribute. The number in the loop block is the total number of digits in your value. The position of your UI element is also something important to consider, and to that end, you should know about what I call origin and margin for UI elements. Origin refers to where the drawing begins on screen, and as such is only used on screen space. On the x-axis, it can be left, right, or center, referring to the left side, right side, or center of the screen. Left is the default origin when drawing. By increasing the drawing position, you move further from the screen's left side. To use right origin, set the x position of your drawing to the screen's width minus the desired position of your drawing. Center origin is similar, dividing the screen's width by 2 before subtracting the desired position. On the y-axis, origin can be top, bottom, or center. It is the same as the x-axis, only using screen height instead of width. Stencyl's default is top origin. Changing the origin for individual UI elements can be of great use when making mobile games, where the resolution varies with each device, or for games with variable resolution. Margin refers to the direction of the drawing from the specified position. Left margin is Stencyl's default, where the text is drawn starting from the left towards the right, starting at the desired position. Right margin is when the text is drawn starting from the right towards the left from the desired position. Right margin is especially useful if combined with right origin. Lastly, centralized text will be centralized at the specified position, even if the length of the text increases or decreases. If this description was confusing, margin is the same as the left, right, and center align options on any writing software. To use right margin, subtract the desired position by the width of your text. To use center margin, subtract the desired position by half the width of your text. And here you can see how both origin and margin settings can be combined. Now let's see all of them in action. And here is the code used in this showcase to type text in-game, using the backspace key to erase text. Still on the subject of drawing values, an easy way to draw all the contents of a list is to use the repeat number of times loop block. By looping with the number of items in your list, you can use the current loop count block multiplied by the font's height and add the total to an initial position on screen to draw one item per line. The same can be done with maps if you use the keys of map as list block. But remember that maps have no set order for its keys, so you will get a different order each time you test the game. Here I'm combining both the key and its value when drawing, and I'm using a text attribute only for readability. To display an actor's health, you might want to use a rectangle drawing for a gauge. All you need to achieve this is to know how to calculate proportions. For horizontal gauges, you set the width to a proportion between the current and maximum values and the gauge size. On vertical gauges, since rectangles draw to the right and down of the specified position, you need to adjust the Y position with the gauge size minus the proportion operation. Alternatively, set the drawing position to the bottom of the gauge and use the negate block when calculating the gauge's height. For circle gauges, it is the same process but using the radius. In all these cases, you can see I'm adding an extra drawing with the full size of the gauge or circle, to act as a background for them. Let's see them in action. If you have a good grasp of math or the willingness to learn and experiment, you can do even more elaborate drawings. Another great use for the drawing blocks, one which I use the most, is for debug purposes. The most generic debug is drawing attributes on screen to check their values and see how your code is executing. For more specific examples, I'll use my utility pack. In the camera lock behavior, debug drawing shows the current lock on screen and draws the areas where the camera is locked. In the follow point behavior, debug drawing shows all the points on the scene, highlighting the next point the actor will follow. In all of my behaviors that have a debug option, the drawing blocks are used. One final tip. If all drawing inputs are the same from a previous frame, the resulting image is kept and the performance impact is greatly reduced. If you have a static set of drawing blocks that never change, it should perform close to on par with the image blocks. In other words, you should only encounter performance problems if you have large-scale drawings that change their properties or position constantly. Keep that in mind. And that's it for this quick tip. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of the drawing blocks and can make effective use of them. I'll leave links in the description if you want to learn more about Stencyl, my itch.io page to get the resources I've made, and to my Twitter if you want updates on what I'm currently working on. I'll also leave a link to the Stencyl forum thread about this video, where you can download the sample game used here. Leave a comment if there are any Stencyl topics you want me to cover. Suggestions are always welcome. Thank you so much for watching.